Hi, this is Tara with Tara's Tips, Terrific Ink, Paper, and Stamps, and today we'll be making a card using the Bottled Happiness stamp set and the split texture dies, and also the brick and mortar embossing folder. But here's the card that we'll be making today, and I'm going to show you a few other variations, stepped up cards that I've done with those supplies as well. So let's get started. Okay, so this is our card, and we've got the inside there and our envelope as well. Then I stepped up the card a little bit using some extra colors in the flowers, and I used some ink pads on the embossing folder when I did that, and the inside is the same. And then I stepped it up a little bit more and used a different designer series paper. This is the designer paper Rings of Love. That's a celebration item, and I used a couple more colors in my flowers here, and then I used the shaker dome with the beads inside, and then the inside is the same, and I used a few more pearls, and I went with the Poppy Parade instead of the Calypso Coral because that matched the colors in the designer paper. And in this card I added a few more pearls than our original card, but this is the card that I'm going to show you how to make today. Okay, I first started off, I already did some parts ahead of time. I took a 5 1/4 by 4 piece of Petal Pink, and I ran it through with the split textures die and through my Big Boss, and I got all the extra little pieces, and then I went back and ran it through my brick and mortar embossing folder and to get the texture. And then what I did was I took my fine tip glue pen with the multi-purpose glue inside and went along all these lines on the back side, and I taped on or glued on my Pretty Prints designer paper, which I had taken a scrap of, just put it on a scrap of white cardstock and cut around it so I could lay it down onto the designer paper and trace it and cut it out so I knew that it would cover the whole. And because this is a non-directional cardstock, I could go back and forth with each piece of my 12 by 12 paper and get quite a few out of them. And then I even had one where I pieced together some pieces. Let me show you the back of that one, where I had a strip and then a little rectangle, little triangle left over, and I taped those together. So you'll notice, well, it's kind of hard to notice now, but there's a darker spot and a lighter spot on there, but once you get the bottle on, it's not really too noticeable. You can see it's a little darker right here and a little lighter, but if you weren't really looking for that, you wouldn't notice it. So that's just a way to make your paper go a little bit more. On the other card that I used with the Rings of Love, it was more of a directional print. So if you wanted to make a bunch of these, you would probably have to have some of your your designer paper showing down at the bottom portion, and have your flowers the other way to make that work. But because I used the Pretty Prints designer paper, it's non-directional, and I was able to get more. I think I got like 10 or 11 cards out of that one piece of designer paper. So that was my my first couple steps that I did, and now I'm going to come in and stamp our bottle and do that, and I'm going to use the Stamparatus for that. And I'm just going to come in with our bottle, vintage bottle punch, and punch out a bottle here. And I'm going to just set that in my template and ink up my bottle. Sorry for the glare, and I've got a little girl stomping upstairs, so if you hear thumps, that's what's going on. she's kind of loud. Okay, so there we've got our bottle. And that's not quite covered just as much as I'd like, so I'm going to go ahead and do that again. And that's better. So we're going to leave that sit down in there. I am going to clean off my stamp. Flip that around. Make sure my bottle's sitting in the hole right. And I'm just using the same Calypso Coral just to give it a darker shadow there. You could use a darker ink color if you wanted to, but I chose to do tone on tone. And there's our bottle. And while we've got that out, I am going to do my inside and on my envelope as well. So I'm going to pull away this bottle piece. And this one I don't want to go quite in the center because, into the corner, I'm sorry, not center, to make it line up evenly with the edge in the bottom. Okay, and I am going to get my envelope. And normally, I'm not sure if it's because I'm left-handed. I normally do my envelope decoration on the left side. But because I already have the stamp apparatus lined up, we're just going to do it on the right side. Sometimes once you get stuff to work, you don't want to mess with it. And I'm just using a Calypso Coral ink spot that came in one of my paper pumpkin kits. I could use a full ink pad, but sometimes with a stamp apparatus, it's nicer to have the ink spots. So I like to save the ones from my paper pumpkin to use for that. Okay, so we've got all our bottles stamped. Okay, and I guess I should show you the Bottled Happiness stamp set that we are using. I know I have another video using the Bottled Happiness stamp set, so if you want to check that out, be sure to do that. We're using the Bottled Happiness, and then for our sentiment, we're using the Go-To Greetings, which I like because it has your most popular sentiments in different fonts, different sizes, so that makes it nice. And then we're gonna, for our inside sentiment, we're gonna use Through It Together. Okay, so we're gonna use the greenery image from the Bottled Happiness and our Pear Pizzazz ink. And I just like to have my stem in the bottle a little bit. And you can either put, you know, if you mail this card out, you can put your postage stamp on top of your leaves, or I did call into the post office one time and they said you could move it over if you had something in that top corner. So just know you can do that. Okay, and I'm gonna finish my my inside while I've got it here. that just a tiny bit darker. Okay, so there's my inside. Okay, and I'm coming in with a 3.5 by 3.5 piece of basic white. And I'm just going to set that in my corner of my Stamparatus. And hang on a minute, I got my magnets together with some fragments here. I had, we made this card at a workshop, and if you don't be careful, your magnets just snap together. I'm going to flip this over to get rid of that indent. Okay, so with our Calypso Coral, we are going to ink up the flower part. And if you wanted to do like my other card, I inked up the flower in Petal Pink, and then I just highlighted some of the different flowers by using a Q-tip and the Calypso Coral ink. And I show that on my other Bottled Happiness video. Okay. We're gonna just clean this off and flip it around. And we're gonna ink up our leaves with the Pear Pizzazz. And there we go. And the chamois I'm using is just a chamois from Walmart. It came out of the automotive section. I do have the Stampin' Up! Chamois and really like it, but when I use my Stamparatus, I kind of like having a thinner chamois. So then I tend to use my Walmart one. Okay, for this, we're just going to fussy cut this out. Okay, there's that. And sorry I went out of camera for a little bit of that, so you're not going to see all that, but I'm just fussy cutting it out, nothing special. Okay, so we're going to bring our card front back in. Lay those on there. And actually, before I put those on with dimensionals, I want to do my sentiment, which is my thinking of you, and it's from the Go-To Greetings. And I am going to cut that out with the Stylish Shapes dies. And I'm going to use this one here. Okay, and I will be right back. Okay, so I've cut that out, and I also cut out a second banner in the Calypso Coral. And that one I'm just going to cut in half. And line behind it. Okay, so now we're gonna have that like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and put dimensionals. I use the mini dimensionals a lot of times on the bottom of them. And some of my girls said I used a lot of dimensionals at the workshop, and if you think I used too many, you can always use less, but I don't like it. I like it to be raised up really good, so. And I figure they're the mini ones, so I'm not cutting the other ones in half, so that's just fine. I'm going to slip that underneath. I like it tucked behind the bottle so I can see the edge of my bottle. Okay, I'm just going to bring in my card base. And glue in my inside. And then we just need pearls yet. Okay, so we're taking our dark Calypso Coral Stampin' Blend and just coloring over some of the pearls. I'm gonna do 3. And that one wants to move on me. Okay, so there's our 3 pearls. I'm gonna come in with my take your pick tool and just push them off. And my pearls don't always end up in the same spot, but that's okay. It's a unique handmade card. So we've got our card and our envelope. I will have all the products linked in the description below, the sizes of the papers that I used. And if you have any questions, please be sure to ask. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Thanks. Until next time.